Hello everyone, I'm Betsy Ross and I'm here with Dr. Hasan from Cincinnati Sports Medicine. We are here at the Western and Southern Masters and Women's Tennis Tournament in Mason, Ohio. Always a popular tournament, one of the oldest in the country, in a matter of fact. And Dr. Hasan, I know you're a real tennis fan, and tennis really is one of these sports that any age can play. You can start when you're little and you can play all the way up 70s, 80s and older.
Most definitely. I'm a shoulder and elbow specialist, but I'm also not only a tennis fan, but someone who's enjoyed tennis and has been playing it since the age of 9. And it is a fantastic sport and a sport that I continue to enjoy. And it's great to see Cincinnati as the center of the tennis world these next 2 weeks, both with the Women's Open this week and the Masters series leading up to the U.S. Open in a couple of weeks. So it's just a great time to be out there and watching some of the real tennis greats partake in their sport.
And it's a great sport for exercise, really keeps you mobile and keeps you moving, and that's what we want everybody to do, is be active and get out there and play. But when you play a sport, any sport, tennis or anything else, there are injuries that happen. What are some of the injuries that you see as a doctor? Well,
again, focusing on my sort of sphere, which is taking care of shoulder and elbow problems and patients with these type of injuries. We all know about tennis elbow, and that's certainly the most common elbow condition that I see amongst our athletes, particularly those that play tennis. But we also see other injuries, both in the elbow and, of course, the shoulder. So if we wanted to talk about the shoulder, I think the most common two injuries are rotator cuff injuries and then injuries to the labrum. The labrum is a lining that envelops the O-ring of the shoulder joint. It envelops the socket like an O-ring. And what it does is it helps stabilize the shoulder. And sometimes you can get traumatic injuries to the labrum. It can happen with a violent injury such as a fall, let's say diving for a tennis ball and shoulder dislocates. You typically have a labrum tear. But it can happen also from repetition and from overuse as the labrum slowly fails over time, many thousands of repetitions with overheads and serves.
So what do we do? What do you look for? And what can we do to help prevent injuries? Some of them are not preventable, like what you said when you dive for a ball. Some of them are wear and tear injuries. What can you give us as advice that maybe we could avoid some of these injuries?
Well, for the other type of injury, if you will, not so much the labrum tear, but the rotator cuff injuries, the most common thing is maintaining good flexibility by doing stretches across your body before you play, stretches behind your back, and that's a common one with the racket, and then using the opposite arm. I'm a lefty, so you can see this is how I would do it. And that can be very helpful. The other thing that I think we don't appreciate is that when you're playing tennis, although we think of it as being an arm sport, you really generate force with your body, so maintaining good core strength of the muscles of the thigh and the abdominal muscles in the back, and getting on top of the ball when you serve, and those are very helpful. Another thing that we talk about is it is much more advantageous to prevent shoulder injuries, particularly rotator cuff injuries, to keep the arm in a sort of an over-the-top position so that you're not out here at 90 degrees where you're not at a mechanical advantage, but rather on top of the ball where you can really thrust with your entire shoulder blade muscles and the back muscles that are much larger and much better positioned, much stronger for generating force. We don't generate force with our shoulder muscles. We stabilize the joint to allow the other muscles to work effectively and transmit force.
So if we have an injury, of course, we come to you. There is so much behind getting back on the court. There is the surgery if required, a lot of rehab, the kind of injuries that you'll see, success rates of getting back, and how soon can we get back to the court?
Well, again, when we talk about, let's say, rotator cuff injuries, there's an entire spectrum, and just because you have a rotator cuff injury doesn't mean you're going to need surgery. In fact, the reality is that a lot of these injuries, if caught early enough, are treatable without surgery, simply by taking some time off from sport, depending on the level of play, depending on the severity of the injury, by working on flexibility, on strength, by getting comfortable with anti-inflammatories if you're able to tolerate them, and if your family doctor allows, or primary care doctor allows. Sometimes a corticosteroid injection, not the anabolic steroids, but rather the steroids that help with inflammation, can be very helpful to get patients the type of comfort that they need to progress and to get them back on the court. On the other hand, if it's something more serious, for example, a rotator cuff tear, that's not going to heal on its own, then surgery is often recommended. And we've had players up into their mid-70s, just like you said, it's a lifelong sport, who've gone on to have successful recoveries. I can think of 2 patients I've taken care of that are high school coaches, still coaching in their early 70s, and who've had successful repairs and are back playing. And I've seen them because I play too, and I've seen them out on the court doing great. The higher the level you play, the higher your expectations, and the longer that recovery. And it's kind of a paradox. Sometimes the younger you are, the longer the recovery, because your bar is set so high. We talk about Maria Sharapova and about the time that she had. It was literally an absence of about a year, and when she got back, she still wasn't at 100%, and she's still continuing to climb up the rankings and continuing her recovery. It can be a career-threatening injury at that top level, top tier playing.
Well, we are very lucky here to have so many great tennis fans, tennis players, a great tennis history here in Greater Cincinnati, and to have folks like you, Dr. Hasan, who care about the game and who care about the people and for the people who play the game here. It is a lifelong sport, and it's a lot of fun. Dr. Hasan, thank you so much for being with us. Enjoy the tennis, and we will see you, we hope, out here at the tennis court as well. For Cincinnati Sports Medicine, I'm Betsy Ross.